Hi, I'm Chef Lynn, and welcome to the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. Today we're making a quick meal. We're going to talk about how to perfectly saute a chicken breast, and we're going to make some stuffed cabbage balls. The cabbage balls are something that's kind of special to me because I learned it at the Ritz Escoffier School in Paris. As you can probably imagine, not a bad place to learn anything. I've been making them for years and I know you'll enjoy them. Over the years, the stuffing, the filling has changed quite a bit and become more Americanized. But I think you'll really enjoy them. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to heat up a saute pan over here and get the chicken breast started. Now realize that I wouldn't normally do the chicken breast first. I would normally put the cabbage balls all together, put them in the steamer, and then make the chicken breast while the cabbage was steaming. However, today I've already got the cabbage balls steamed, so I'm going to go ahead and start the chicken breast. First thing I need to do is season the raw meat. This is just some coarse salt that I'm sprinkling on here, and then some McCormick's mixed pepper. McCormick's mixed pepper is something that I really like. It's got black, white, red, and just a little bit of hot pepper mixed in it. I like things just a little bit spicy. So you can see I sprinkled that liberally with pepper. Then I'm going to add to the saute pan a little bit of olive oil. And here's a saute trick. Notice I'm not touching the raw meat with my hands. I'm going to use these tongs so I don't have to wash. And when I put this in the hot pan, in the hot grease, I'm going to slide it. That will keep it from sticking. So you can make any pan, a non-stick pan, if you just move it around and coat the bottom of it. Now see how it moves? It'll never stick. It's a great trick to use for fish. Now I've got this heat. I started it out on high, and now I'm turning it down to kind of medium, and I'm going to let it just sit there and cook. Remember that whenever you move anything around, it cools it off, and so it'll take longer to cook. Then while that's sauteing, I'll come over here and start working on my cabbage. This cabbage is called a Savoy cabbage. You can remember because it's the really wrinkly one. Okay? Now what I want to do is soften these leaves so that I can stuff them. So the first thing I'll do is just cut off this core. Okay? And then I need to take out a little bit of the inner core so that the leaves will loosen when they're heated. Now before you showed up, I started this pan. This is just a big pan of water, and I started it heating so that it will come to a boil really soon. So I'm just going to cut out a little bit of that core to loosen the leaves. It's kind of pesky there. And then plunge the whole thing in the water. Now notice I touched the chicken breast with this tong, so I'm going to use a different one on the cabbage. And I'm also going to turn this down because it's cooking pretty fast. And I don't want it to get done quite that quickly. If you can see on the side of this chicken breast, there's a little white stripe coming up. And that's how I know how much of it is cooked. The whole thing will turn white. So I want to watch this, and when it's white, about halfway up, that's when I'll turn it. Then I can turn the heat off once the other side is cooked and let it sit there for a little bit while I'm finishing. Okay, so I'm going to just push these cabbage leaves down in the water and hope they come back to a boil really quickly. Okay, those are my cabbage tongs. Now I'm going to start putting together the filling while those are cooking. And I'm putting this on high. Again, before you came by, I did go ahead and already saute the sausage. That just means that I put it in the pan on high heat, and sausage is pretty fatty, so it doesn't take very long. It only takes a couple of minutes. But I went ahead and did that, and you can see there are still some little pink spots in there. It's not quite cooked through. But this is the point that I want to start adding the vegetables. And by the way, this is a heat-proof spatula. So be careful, don't use just a regular spatula or it will melt when you put it into the hot pan. This one is resistant up to, I think, 500 degrees. So heat-proof spatulas always have a red handle, but all red-handled spatulas are not necessarily heat-proof. So make sure you check it before you use it in a hot saute pan. And just one more thing, if you leave it set in a hot pan, it certainly will melt. Or if you put it on a hot burner, it will melt. What it's meant for is just kind of using in a hot pan to saute. Okay, enough about that. Now let's talk a little bit about our ingredients that are going into the stuffing. This will be in the middle of the cabbage ball. And ideally this water would have been boiling and these would be done already, but those are going to take just a little bit longer because the water was hot but not boiling when I put them in there. So back to the ingredients. Inside my cabbage ball, I'm going to have onion, leek, which we can go ahead and put right in there. We're adding some chopped yellow onion, some chopped leek, and notice these are all diced small, and I have equal parts of each thing. This is turnip, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. This is celery, chopped, and this is carrot. Okay, now I've got this, I'm putting this on medium heat. I'm cooking with gas here, so it adjusts pretty instantly. And I'm adding just a tiny little bit of olive oil, just a little bit. And then sauteing this, moving it around in the hot pan with the sausage. And I want to cook this just until the vegetables are soft. Woo, they're going flying all over. Okay, now I can let that sit for just a minute to saute and soften up. And I want to show you what a turnip is and what a leek is, just in case you don't know. I've got a couple back here. This is a turnip. The ones that you find in the grocery store are usually about half this size, but I picked this one at a farm on Sunday, so it's actually pretty big because it's far along into the season. So to prepare the turnip, you treat it just like a potato. You do have to cut the root end off, but then you want to just peel the turnip and dice it. Slice it first, and then slice the slices into strips, and then cut across them, and you have dice. This is a leek. The leek is a member of the onion family, so it's bulbous. It's actually kind of a cross between onion and garlic. Let me just saute that a little bit. And take a look at my chicken breast. Can you see that it's about halfway cooked through? So now I'm going to just flip that over. You can use a tongue if you like. And turn the heat up just a tiny little bit so the other side of it will cook through. Okay, now back to my leek. The leek has, like an onion, many layers inside of it. It grows in the ground, and those layers can all collect dirt. So it's important to open the leek up and wash it inside. It seems like you would just cut the end off of the leek this way, which you do, and then cut the leek where it stops and this fibrous part begins. But if you do that, you'll lose about a half a cup of leek. So the best way to clean it is to take a large, sharp French knife and just kind of shave it. Like that. And you can see above where people normally cut it, there's still about a half a cup or a cup of leek that you would have lost if you hadn't done that. Then you want to just split this in half, and that will allow you to open it up under running water so that you can clean it really well throughout. So that's how you do the leek. Okay, I'm going to take just a second to clean up here, and we'll go back to our stuffing. Okay, now our vegetables have softened up already. It doesn't take very long. The pan is hot, and especially this one because it's cast iron, it distributes the heat really nicely. So now I can already start putting in the rest of the ingredients. Before I do that, let's check our cabbage and see how the leaves are coming along. I want them to be really soft and pliable. So these are pretty soft, so I can start pulling them out. And you can see that the leaves have separated from the cabbage. That one wanted to go all by itself. So I can bring all these outer leaves off very easily just by picking them up with tongs. Then as the inner leaves also start to soften, I can just pull them away from the ball of cabbage like that. When it becomes hard to pull them away, or if you have to apply any pressure, then they're not soft enough yet, so just leave it alone. I wanted to get those started because those have to obviously cool before we can put them together. Okay, now in my filling, I've got a very spicy sausage. This you can control, the sausage you can use to control the heat in your dish. I like things really spicy, so I use half and half mild sausage and hot sausage. If you like things hotter than that, use all hot sausage. If you don't, use all mild sausage, or any combination thereof that you like. Okay, now I'm going to turn my heat off because I want this to begin cooling down, but before it cools, I want to make sure I add the tomato paste. Now, I don't know if you have one of these handy-dandy can openers, but this is really a cool thing. You put it on sort of left-handed, grip it together, and then twist, just like a normal can opener works. This one happens to be a sealess. I got it in Germany, but I know they have them at Papa Joe's. Okay, so you can feel it let go, just like with a regular can opener, but when you take off the top, you've got an edge that isn't sharp. It actually cuts around the side of the can instead of the top. Let's set this back here. Now I want to add the tomato paste while my filling is hot. And this recipe calls for about 6 ounces of tomato paste, which is about a half of one of those big cans. I want to mix it in through while it's hot because when you heat tomato paste, it sweetens it. So any bitterness that would have been in the tomato is going to go away by heating it. Okay, so I'm just taking a minute to work this all through. And see how I'm gripping down on my spatula now? Because before, when I had it like this, I was flipping things all over the place. But if you grip down, you have a lot more control. Just make sure that you don't get any hot food on your hand, obviously, or you could burn yourself. I always like to say, don't ask me how I know that. Okay, so we've got our tomato paste in there. And then we want to add a little bit of salt. And again, just a little bit of that McCormick's pepper. Since I used half spicy and half mild, I don't want to put a lot of pepper in there because it's already pretty spicy. And I can confirm that I've got it right by giving it a quick taste. I always have tasting spoons around, and I always say that's the first commandment of cooking. Always taste everything before you give it to your guests. Okay. Good thing I did, because I think it needs just a tiny little bit more salt. It's pretty hot though. The sausage I used is called Tennessee Pride, and it's zesty hot. So even for me, who likes spicy dishes, that's plenty hot, using it half and half. Okay, so our filling is just about done here. We just need to add a little bit of parsley, which makes it nice and pretty. Some breadcrumbs. I can't tell you the amount, just kind of sprinkle some over the top. And then I'm going to furiously stir this because I want it to cool down enough so that I can handle it. At this point, I would probably walk away from it and maybe work on something else and let it cool down a little bit before I actually stuff the cabbage balls. And by the way, you can stuff the cabbage balls a day ahead and then just steam them at the last minute. I always love to do things ahead. But we don't have the luxury of waiting for this to cool down. And one other reason it needs to cool down is we need to add an egg. An egg adds some protein and helps the stuffing to stick together. If you put it in when the product is too hot, then the egg will scramble, and you don't really want scrambled egg in your filling. Back to my chicken breast, I can see that it's white almost all the way through. So now I can turn this way down and just let it sit there, and it'll be finished by the time we're ready to go. If you can't tell by touching or by looking when your chicken is done, make sure and use a thermometer. Chicken needs to get to 165 degrees Fahrenheit before it's safe to eat. So make sure your chicken is cooked through. You can, if you really need to, you can also cut it in half or make a slit in it just to make sure that it's white all the way through. Okay, one of the things that cools things down is stirring, so that's why I'm stirring here so much. I'm just simply trying to cool this down, which is a problem in this pan because it stays hot for a long time. So I'm going to take a chance and just go ahead and put the egg in there and then stir it in really fast and hope it doesn't scramble, which it seems to be cool enough that it's okay. Okay, so now we've got all of our ingredients in the stuffing, and I'm just making sure that everything is evenly distributed, so I'm spending a little time stirring here to make sure that it's all mixed up really, really well. Okay, and I'll just pile it up so maybe the top will get cool enough for me to work with it. But when you do this at home, you can take a few minutes and wait until that cools. Okay, our cabbage leaves are now coming off here again really easily. Let me move some of the cooled ones this way, and then you can just keep pulling those off of there until, again, you get down to a spot where it doesn't pull away easily. And when it doesn't pull away easily, then just leave them in there for a few minutes until they're softened. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn that water off and turn my chicken breast off because it's pretty well, maybe I'll just leave it on low. It looks like it's still a little bit pink. Okay, making some room here. I've got a clean cloth to clean up my cutting board. And I'll show you how to stuff the cabbage. How about if we move our salt and pepper out of the way here too, so that you can see really well. Okay, I'm going to take one of these large leaves first, and you can see that the cabbage has two sides. There's a right side and a wrong side. Here we've got a very tough stem in the center, and I'm just going to cut that away. Okay, that's something you can use to make your vegetable stock. Then what I'm going to do is take the right side. I cut, you know how far to cut up because you can see where it's really tough and you can feel where it's hard. And you have to cut all that out or it won't bend. So now I'm going to put this on my hand and bring the right side over the left side, and you can see that it naturally forms a cup. Now I'm going to take a tablespoon, a large tablespoon. Let me grab one out of the drawer here. A large tablespoon of filling. I'll take some from the top where it's a little bit cooler and plop it right in the middle of that cup. Okay? This is a big leaf, so it can take even a little bit more. And see how I'm using the curvature of the spoon to press it down into my hand? Okay, now what I'm going to do is take this spot where I've put the two edges of the leaves together and fold it over. And then fold, 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 fold until I've got a ball. Okay, then I'm going to squeeze it. Got a little bit of filling coming out just at the edge, so I could have pulled that over just a little bit further. Then what I'm going to do is take a thin kitchen towel and put that cabbage ball upside down. This is with the loose leaf. Right inside of that. Turn it over and make like you made a ghost when you were little. And then I'm going to just squeeze it a little bit. Then I'm going to turn it around in a circle like this, and the centrifugal force makes it into a ball. And what I've got is a perfect cabbage ball. Now on that one, you can see that stuffing is leaking out just a little bit. So that means that I could have pulled the cut spot over a little bit further. So let's do it again. They say when you want to show somebody something, you have to show them 3 times. You have to show them, then show them, then show them again, and then they'll remember. So here's the second time. The coarser side goes in. The smoother side goes out. And you can tell by looking at the stem. On the inside part, the stem sticks up, and on the outside part, the stem is smooth. So here I'm going to take my knife again, cut out that middle part, save that for my vegetable stock, and this time I'll pull this over just a little bit further, and it makes a natural cup. Put a tablespoon of filling inside, try and get it to the middle, and then fold over the cut edge first. Turn it over, put it in my towel. Oh, I didn't squeeze it. Okay, put it in your towel, make a little ghost, twist it together, and then the centrifugal force makes a beautiful cabbage ball. Now these, all right, I'll show you one more time because I said I would show you 3 times. I'll do this one quickly. Cut out the middle, save that for veg stock. Bring this way over to make a natural cup. You can see that one has a hole in it. So what you can do in that case is take one of the smaller leaves. That's a nice big one, but take one of the smaller leaves that you might not be too excited about using. Cut a little piece of cabbage out and patch it. So there, I've got a little patch in there, and by the time you're finished, you'll never know. Take a tablespoon of filling. This is actually more than a tablespoon. This is a serving size of filling. Press it down. Fold over the cut part first. Fold, 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 fold. Squeeze. Open up the towel. Put it head side down. Make your ghost. Squeeze again, and then use centrifugal force to pack the cabbage ball down. And there you've got it. Beautiful round cabbage ball. When your cabbage balls are ready, you need to put them inside a steamer. Now I've got a really big, beautiful steamer over here that I brought back from Germany. But if you don't have one, don't panic. You can buy this at any hardware store, or lots of kitchen places carry it. Bed Bath & Beyond, Williams-Sonoma, Sur La Table, they all have it. And this opens and closes so it fits any saucepan. You just put it in the saucepan and it will hold your cabbage balls out of the water. You put your water in the bottom of your saucepan and then a lid on it, and you can steam them that way. So this is a really inexpensive alternative to a large steamer, but my husband is totally convinced that I need this one, so don't tell him. Okay, so here I've got these in this big steamer. I'll bring them over here so you can see them, and that's what they look like when they're finished. So our chicken broth is finished, and then I hadn't mentioned to you before, I just put some beef broth in this pan and let it simmer down to almost nothing. So I'm going to take a little bit of that juice, excuse me for slipping, and just put it on the plate. And it's like a little taste of a sauce that will moisten the chicken breast. Then I use this for cabbage, so I can still use it for chicken. I don't want to use that one because that one touched my raw meat. And I can take out my finished chicken breast, which is nicely caramelized on both sides. I'm going to set it right in that sauce. And then I'll come over here and rescue 3 gorgeous cabbage balls. I like to put things in 3s. I'll pick some dark ones out here. The leaves are different colors, so the cabbage balls come out a little bit different color. So there you have it. That's what they look like before they're cooked. And this is what they look like when they're finished. So I hope you'll try these at home. I'm Chef Lynn from the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. Bon appetit and enjoy. Hi again. Here's a quick money-saving tip from the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. I want to show you how easy it is for you to make your own vegetable stock, vegetable broth. You'll never need to buy it again. This vegetable broth will cost you nothing, just a little bit of water, because you'll make it from scraps that you'll accumulate all week long. Why do I need vegetable stock, you might say? Well, first of all, it's called for in some recipes, obviously. You also might want to use it if you have a vegetarian for dinner. Don't forget and use chicken broth or meat broth because those are also animal products. In addition, you can use it to add flavor to pastas and to vegetables when you cook them. Instead of just cooking them in water, cook them in all vegetable stock or cook them in half vegetable stock in half water. You can also use it to wilt greens. For example, let's say you're making beets. Not only can you use the bottom little burgundy colored beets, you can also use the greens. Just slice them up and cook them in a little bit of vegetable broth until they wilt. Add a little vinegar, salt, and pepper, and you've got another side for a very delicious meal. So let's look at what I saved this week. I told you that you can make this vegetable broth just from things that you would normally throw away. So this week, the heirloom tomatoes were vine ripened, and so I canned a lot of pasta sauce. As a result, I've got all of these tomato skins. Instead of chucking them in the garbage, I'm going to put those all in my vegetable stock. If you can save some tomato, that's a very flavorful thing that will give a big boost to your vegetable stock. I've also got, let's just take a look and see what I've got in here. I've got carrot peels, which you would normally throw away. I've got some parsnip peels from a dinner I made the other night. And by the way, you can save these things for up to a week. What I do is I have a day a week where I make vegetable stock, and it's usually Friday afternoon. So I save these all week, and then I go ahead and do this. I saved bits and pieces of pepper. That's not a hair, that's just a little piece of the pepper, don't panic. I've got little bits of onion that's left over. And notice what I'm finding in here are mostly root vegetables. You don't want to have anything that's extremely strongly flavored like asparagus. Here I've got some curls of celery. I wanted to peel the celery and dice it to put it in a salad. So I didn't want to have the stringy parts of the celery, so I peeled it first. I've got some little bits of celery leaves and more little pieces of onion that I didn't end up using in dishes. So that's pretty much everything that's in there. And then in this one, I have some little bits of cabbage from a cabbage salad. Oh, actually, I think I made some cabbage balls this week. So there's a little bit of cabbage. Lots more carrot peel. And not the paper that's on the outside of the onion, but the inner layer that still has a lot of flavor in it. I mean, when you look in here, you can see that these things have a ton of flavor that I would otherwise have thrown away. Then to make the vegetable stock, all I have to do is cover these things with water. I happen to have some water available, so I want to cover it with water and maybe go an inch above. So I'm about an inch above all of those peelings of vegetable. Then I want to add some spices, and I always add the same ones. I add a little bit of Turkish bay leaf, which is a very flavorful kind of bay leaf. Then I add some thyme, and you don't even have to take the thyme off of the little stems. You can just throw it on top. And then I add some peppercorn. Notice that I'm not adding any salt because the vegetable stock or broth is something that will go into other dishes. So I don't want to salt it now. I want to control the salt in that dish at the end of making that dish. So I'm going to put some peppercorns on here because I like things spicy. Then take my French knife, put the side of the knife on the top of the peppercorns and crush them. That will release the flavor. And there's one more thing that I usually put in here, and that's a little bit of parsley stem. Now, I forgot to get the parsley stem out, frankly, so it's not here. But what I would do is lay the stem also on the cutting board, just like I did with the peppercorn, and crush it like this, and then put it on the top. Now I'll turn the heat on high and bring it to a simmer. As soon as it starts simmering, I'll reduce the heat to low, and let it cook for about an hour and a half. After that, all I need is a bowl and a strainer, and I'll just tip this over and strain the broth into the bowl. Then I always keep a big moon bowl. This is called a moon bowl because it's shaped like a moon. You can get these really cheaply at a place like Gordon Foods. I fill this with ice and water and then set my broth in here to cool it down very fast so that it doesn't take too long and create bacteria before I'm able to put it away. After that, I just put it into plastic covered airtight containers, and then I freeze it. So I always have fresh vegetable broth available whenever I need it. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is when you take your vegetable broth out, if it's not quite as flavorful or as intense as you want it, all you have to do is put it back in a pan and boil it down a little bit. Taking the moisture out of any product intensifies its flavor. So you can see, if you look at this, how deeply colored this is and how flavorful it must be. This is vegetable broth, not beef stock. Now you know how to make your own vegetable broth or stock exactly for nothing, totally for free. I'm Chef Lynn from the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. Enjoy.